Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the One God, to whom praise is forever due. We thank Him for Moses and the Torah. We thank Him for Jesus and the Gospel. We thank Him for Muhammad and the Quran. Peace be upon these worthy servants of Allah. If I lived to be 1,000, I could for His intervention in our affairs and raising up in our midst the man who taught me what I know and gave me the example of the human being I hope to become, and that is our divine leader and teacher, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Before I address the events and circumstances which led to my decision to speak this evening, I want to thank everyone who is present, including the representatives of the press. I also want to thank my laborers and staff for their representation of myself and the Nation of Islam at our recent press conference here on January 13th. I have been attempting to get some rest from a very strenuous schedule. Obviously, I have not been able to do so. I found it necessary to have a few words to say on this troubling subject. I will begin with 2 chapters of the Holy Quran, which are the closing chapters of the Quran, and they are called the chapters of refuge. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, say, I seek refuge in the Lord of the dawn from the evil of that which He has created, and from the evil of intense darkness when it comes, and from the evil of those who cast evil suggestions in firm resolutions, and from the evil of the envier when he envies. Surah 114 of the Quran reads, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, say, I seek refuge in the Lord of men, the King of men, the God of men, from the evil of the whisperings of the slinking devil, who whispers into the hearts of men from among the jinn and the men. Allah, God, created this universe out of a universe of darkness. Yet today we live in a universe of light. This teaches us that even in our darkest hours, light, hope, and life are always present. If we do not despair in a time of darkness, if we have the right attitude, we can find the light of opportunity. Although this is a dark hour for Mrs. Betty Shabazz and her family, for me, for the Nation of Islam, and for our people, there is a marvelous opportunity present in this darkness to cleanse a wound and to begin healing wounds inflicted 30 years ago on the Nation of Islam and the black community. Some of those wounds were self-inflicted, but the deepest of these wounds are from an outside force. What is important? What is important is the attitude of all of us as we face the trials that allow us to find the light that extinguishes darkness, that we may take the negative and turn it into a positive. In such a dark hour when so many things are unseen, so many things are unknown, it is easy to stumble, make a mistake, misjudge, or fall into a trap. Therefore, it is wise that we should seek refuge in the Lord of the dawn. For in him is the rising of the sunlight of truth, shedding light on all things, making us able to see things as they really are. Allah says in the Quran that our deeds may be the weight of an atom, and that atom hidden in a rock, and that rock buried in the earth, yet will Allah bring it forth. The Bible teaches similarly that whatsoever is done in the dark shall be brought forth in the light. There are none of us who are free from sin. And all of us have done something that we would not like to have brought into the light. So David the psalmist says, blessed is the man whose sins the Lord doth hide. And the Quran again says, and thou wilt see every nation kneeling down. Every nation will be called to its record. Things are not always as they appear. This is why God today comes to judge. For the unjust judges of this world do not judge according to truth. They are not made to do justice. They make mischief by means of the law. The law is a tool that can be stretched for those whom the society favors, and drawn up and made narrow and tight for those whom the society dislikes. I personally am saddened over the indictment and the arrest of Qubilah Shabazz on charges that she, in a murder for hire scheme, made a partial payment of money to a man, a government informant, who was to assassinate me. There is so much more to this than meets the eye. My sympathy, the sympathy of my family and the nation, is with Mrs. Shabazz and her family, because in my judgment, the federal indictment handed down against Qubilah Shabazz does not only add insult to injury, it adds one more injury to an already injured family and people. The government of the United States has not and does not deny its hatred for Malcolm X and his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The government of the United States does not deny that under the counterintelligence program of the Justice Department of the United States carried out by J. Edgar Hoover, the Federal Bureau of Investigation worked night and day to destroy the unity between Malcolm X and his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The government of the United States does not deny its desire to prevent the rise of a black messiah who could unite the nationalist element and the downtrodden element of our people within the black community. The government of the United States does not deny that of the thousands of dirty tricks used by the CIA in their attempts to destabilize and destroy the credibility of governments and leaders, to destabilize and overthrow governments, to murder world leaders. Every one of these tactics were brought to bear against black leaders and black organizations during the 1960s. The government of the United States does not deny that it used reporters employed by so-called respected journals to place articles in those respected journals designed to discredit, defame, malign, and limit the influence by falsely accusing certain black leaders. The government of the United States does not deny the fact that through her agent provocateurs planted in every black organization, that the government caused the spilling of blood in the black community and even the murder of some leaders of black organizations. The government of the United States does not deny the fact that it went so far as to plant men in some organizations to sleep with the wives of the leaders of those organizations to create discord within black organizations. The government of the United States does not deny planting stories that put a quote-unquote snitch jacket on sincere persons within certain organizations to cause zealots within those organizations to kill those persons. The government of the United States does not deny that it bugged the hotels, the home, and the office of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and sought to persuade the Nobel Prize Committee to deny him the Nobel Peace Prize. The government of the United States does not deny that it encouraged the Pope not to meet with Dr. King and even sent letters to Dr. King urging him to kill himself before they made known to the public certain so-called indiscretions of Dr. King. The same government of the United States that did all of these things created division within the Nation of Islam and exploited that division and made the Nation of Islam and its leadership the #1 organization targeted for destruction. The same forces that denied Malcolm X protection after his house had been firebombed as a result of a hostile environment created by the government media. They have now exposed Malcolm's daughter, Kubila, to a similarly hostile environment, which has likewise been created by the wicked machinations of the same government. The circumstances surrounding Kubila's release are such that we fear for her safety. Therefore, we demand that the same federal government responsible for planting a paid informant to entrap her place 24-hour protection around her immediately. Kubila is a child that I knew and held in my arms as a baby. I do not believe that Kubila is an evil woman. And in the numerous reports I have read, most people who know her do not believe that either. Kubila is a child who loves her father, a child who grieves over the loss of her father's life, a life cut short not by Louis Farrakhan, but by the same evil forces that throw stones and hide their hands, and who, like Pontius Pilate, wash their hands of the matter and allow just men to go to an undeserved destruction. I would like to ask my wife, Khadijah, and my daughters to come and stand here for a moment. Just a minute. Security, stand back. All the security, stand back. Stand right here. As you look upon my wife and my 5 daughters from my wife, these are daughters whom Allah blessed me with. I love my wife and daughters dearly, and they love their husband and father. My wife is a righteous woman, and my daughters are righteous young women. They do not and have not engaged in any unlawful conduct. However, I can assure you that if anyone were to do harm to me, I can assure you that if the government of the United States did not do justice by anyone who was guilty of harming me, they would not hesitate to avenge me, and they would not hire someone to do it for them. They would do it themselves. I believe in my heart that no power but God could stop them, especially if they believe that justice had not been done. Not to think about my sons and not to think about those who love me and stand with me. You put Dr. Betty Shabazz and her 6 daughters there. They love their husband and father like my wife loves her husband and my children love their father. We share similar experiences. My older children know that I taught them from babies how to roll out of their beds if bullets came crashing through our windows at night. My older children know that in the night when I was minister in Boston, Massachusetts, my home was firebombed. And I had to challenge the flames and carry all of my children to safety, and my wife in her nightgown, counting the babies as I brought them out, said one is missing, and it was my daughter Maria. I had to go back up in the fire to get my daughter. We know what it is to love and to be hurt because you stand for a principle for your people. Is the power of love. Love is the most powerful force in human nature. It is love that makes a woman fight a bear for the release of her child. It is love that makes a mother challenge a blazing inferno to save her child. And when one is aggrieved over the loss of a loved one and the injury is not properly redressed, the longing for justice and the pain and hurt of the loss can be maneuvered and manipulated by unscrupulous forces. And the one who is aggrieved can be led to step over the limits of what is legally correct. I believe that this is what happened with Qubilah Shabazz. She is no different than these. These are not criminals, and neither is Qubilah Shabazz. To send this young sister to jail, knowing her pain, hurt, and grief have been manipulated, her anger and frustration has been directed at a man she was made to believe had something to do with her father's death. I am pointed out to her as a man who is usurping the role that is supposed to be that of her own father. It is easy to send a trained setup artist to manipulate her emotions and make her a tool in a diabolical scheme. Should she be made to suffer while the plotters who used her to create this situation go free? 30 years ago, Mrs. Betty Shabazz identified the men she said she saw kill her husband. I was not named. My name was not mentioned in any of 11 daily newspapers in New York and the newspapers around this nation and the world which reported the death of Malcolm X. The FBI knew me. They listened to my telephone conversations then, just as they listened to Qubilah's conversations. But now you wish to try me in the media. Try me for what? You wish to try me for words that I spoke or wrote 30 years ago? Words that constituted no criminal offense then and constitute no criminal offense now. The black community wants to know why all of this is happening. Why has the media coverage of this event been so extensive, so relentless? The announcement of the indictment of Qubilah has gathered more headlines than the assassination attempts against Pope John Paul, former President Reagan, and the recent attacks on the White House. Why? Why? What is so special here? A man can fly an airplane into the White House and he gets a blip and a blop, and 2 days later, we forget about it. But for nearly a week now, this incident has dominated the headlines, not only in America, but throughout the world. The black community wants to know, why is this happening and why now? Why is the focus on Farrakhan? When Malcolm X was assassinated, the media placed the blame then on the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The press accused him and him alone of giving the orders to kill Malcolm X. The media was relentless at that time. But the charges were so patently false that he was never charged, arrested, or indicted by any law enforcement agency. But he was tried and convicted by propagandists masquerading as journalists. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed from among us in 1975 and the Nation of Islam seemed to disappear, the clamor miraculously ceased. And for nearly a decade, the media was virtually silent on the question of Malcolm, his assassination, his contribution to the rise of black people, as well as the Nation of Islam and its contribution to the rise of our people. It was only with the re-emergence of the Nation of Islam under the leadership of Minister Louis Farrakhan and our apparent success at reaching the masses of our people at a time when all other voices paid for, set up by outside forces, are beginning to die. Farrakhan now is becoming the voice of black America and the voice of the black world. Of all, I am a voice that government does not control. White philanthropy does not control. I'm a free black man. So now, the old false, filthy propaganda campaign has been dug up, dusted off, and redirected, only this time against Louis Farrakhan. I was and I remain absolutely innocent of any involvement in the assassination of Malcolm X. The U.S. government is frustrated because there's no basis to bring me into a court of law to try me on charges of Malcolm's murder. However, the government, even as we speak, is working feverishly to provide a basis to prosecute me by gathering false witnesses, wicked demons and hypocrites whose envy of my success and the success of the Nation of Islam is causing them to yield to the temptation to seek my death and my destruction. Therefore, I, like my father, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, am being tried in the court of public opinion, fed by the same propagandists masquerading as journalists who are setting the stage for my incarceration or assassination. These forces have determined that I must not survive. It is written in the scriptures, smite the shepherd and scatter the sheep. The focus on Farrakhan is because I occupy the seat of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as the leader of the Nation of Islam. And the ultimate aim of this government is to destroy Louis Farrakhan by planting the seeds of public contempt and hatred toward me through manipulation of the media. It is no coincidence, brothers and sisters, that after I spoke to nearly 15,000 black men early last year in New York City, that the New York Post launched a series of malicious attacks on me, which included numerous and vicious lies, which were calculated to expose me to aversion and hatred among my own people. The Nation of Islam's attorneys brought a $4.4 billion lawsuit against Rupert Murdoch's New York Post in March of 1994. Now nearly 1 year has passed, and the New York State Supreme Court has not issued a single ruling on any of the various motions that have been brought before it by our attorneys. Why has our case been held in abeyance? While the New York Post seizes every opportunity to continue this filthy and unlawful and wicked smear campaign, the New York Post admitted in court documents that it possesses certain files containing communications between it and the FBI. Our attorneys demanded these documents through the discovery process. However, the Post refused to release these documents, claiming that, quote, certain documents were gathered in anticipation of litigation and are thus privileged, end quote. What litigation was anticipated? It was not the suit that we filed. We believe it was a criminal proceeding in which false witnesses were gathered, in which I was to have been charged with complicity in the murder of Malcolm X. Post columnist Jack Neufeld, one of the defendants in the lawsuit, continues to print harmful and vicious lies. In an article published on January 13, he wrote that a new film contains a video of Farrakhan, which was smuggled out of a closed meeting of his followers in 1993. Yes, sir. That videotape, which contained my 1993 Savior's Day address, was made in a public forum in 2 parts at the University of Illinois Pavilion, and the second part was made right here in Mosque Mariam, and both of those tapes have been made available to the public ever since. It has been promoted in our newspaper. Here on this table are all of the speeches that I have made on Malcolm X. They are available for you to look into my mind and my heart, and every word that I have uttered in public about the man that you say I was his rival. I was never a rival of Malcolm X. Malcolm was my teacher and my mentor, and I never considered myself his rival. This is what you have made. And so, in view of all of this, what should be done? What should we do? We should close ranks. On these things, we can unite. We believe that our leaders should force the government to open all files concerning the charges against Kubila Shabazz and all of the files relating to Malcolm X and his assassination. Open up all the files. In fact, since all of our leaders throughout our history in this country have been subjected to governmental harassment and interference, I propose that we as a people file a class action suit charging the U.S. government with the denial of our civil rights and our human rights, and cause the opening of all files with respect to the Honorable Marcus Garvey, Noble Drew Ali, Carl Robeson, Adam Clayton Powell, the NAACP, CORE, SNCC, SCLC, the Panther Party, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, Louis Farrakhan, the LaRouche people, Scientology, and their #1 target, the Nation of Islam. Let's all unite in a class action suit. Put our differences on the side burner, on the back burner, or throw it off the stove completely. a class action suit. A government of, by, and for the people, such as this one, should not have the ability to hold secret from the people files and documents relating to the murders of President Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X. Such secrecy protects only the guilty in and out of the government and frustrates the attainment of justice. So open the files. Let the light shine on the dark secrets of the government of the people, which has been taken over by the forces of the wicked. God is giving us a platform to challenge this government for crimes perpetrated against us for 440 years. And this is why we are calling on 1 million black men to march on Washington, D.C. this year. It's time that we as black men stand up for the hurt of our families and the hurt of our ancestors. They died and they can't stand, but we are here today to stand up for them. I say on to Washington. And let us go to demand justice. Justice for our people. Justice for the poor. Justice for the locked out. Justice for our women. Justice for our children. We must stand up for our leaders who sacrificed themselves and their families in a noble attempt to get justice for us all. The black man must stand up. And the black woman must be able to see her husband, her brother, her son, her nephew go to the battle for justice like a man. And when we go, we will not come back empty-handed. This is why the government feels they must stop me now. They can envision 1 million black men. What nation on earth has 1 million men standing behind any leader? They can envision politically what that would mean for America and what it would mean for us. And so in my closing, whether Betty Shabazz and I ever become friends again, whether Coretta Scott King and I ever embrace in sincere love, whether the first children of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and I ever embrace in a bond of love and brotherhood, whether Reverend Jesse Jackson and I embrace as friends and brothers in the struggle. We are the elders in the struggle of our people for liberation. And our chapter in this history of the quest of our people for freedom, justice, and equality is closing. But we must let the children live. The children of Malcolm X, the children of Dr. King, the children of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the children of Reverend Jackson, the children of Louis Farrakhan. Let the children live. As we close this chapter on the old, And we start a new chapter in the battle for justice. Let not the children of the warriors of this old chapter go down. Let our children set a new agenda. Let them take the good of their parents and build on that, and let them leave the garbage behind. Let them make their page brighter and newer, and give our people a new spirit and a new hope. Let us stand firm together to stop the enemies of our rise. They ruined our yesterday, and we helped them. They are fighting to ruin our today. We must not help them. And by putting Kubila Shabazz behind bars, they are attempting to ruin our tomorrow. So let us say in one voice, never, never again. 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 Thank you for listening, and may God bless you as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Tuesday night.